Welcome to my channel, where the scariest stories come to life. Before we dive into today's chilling tale, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications, so you never miss a story. Now, let's get into the horror. For context, I'm a 33-year-old female with a 7-year-old son and a 5-year-old daughter. For our protection, I'm going to be using an alias for myself and letters for my children. I'll refer to myself as Carly. My daughter is S, and my son is T. I decided to take S and T to a local park with a playground to run off some energy and enjoy the nice weather and extra daylight with the time change. S and T were running around, playing, and just being kids. This park has two areas, one on a hill with a water park, pool, and a playground for smaller children, and a lower level with a greenway trail, playground equipment, and swings for older children. These areas are connected by a bridge and a big set of stairs. This is going to be relevant toward the end of the story. My older sister and I were on FaceTime, as we normally do a few times a day, and she was talking to me as I was watching them play. I never liked to let S and T get too far away from me in general, but I guess I was far enough away for this creep to think he could try something. I was constantly surveying the area, keeping them in my line of sight but still giving them space to play. Eventually, T wanted to come sit near the wall where I was sitting, and he asked to play with the phone and talk to his aunt, to which I agreed. He was beside me talking to her while I was watching S on a swing set about 20 or 30 feet away when I noticed a man in jeans and a blue hoodie behind her, about the same distance away, near the Vietnam Veterans Monument, facing the opposite direction. I'm generally a nervous and paranoid person, and I instantly got a bad feeling about this guy, so I instinctively started moving closer to S. He turned around and started walking toward her. I wanted to believe that maybe he had a child there at the playground as well and was just giving them space to play while he took a few moments to himself. All parents know we try to take advantage of those moments to keep from losing our minds. But I digress. As he was walking toward her, I noticed him looking at her. I don't mean just glancing and then going about his business, I mean full-on staring at her. She was swinging and didn't even notice the man now standing at the opposite end of the swing set, staring at her. At this point, he was less than 10 feet away. T was still talking to my sister, but I told him calmly, "Let's go play with S," to avoid scaring him, while running toward her. As I got closer, I noticed the man appeared to be around my age to his late 30s, with reddish blonde hair, about 5 feet 9 inches or 5 feet 10 inches with an average build. I might only be 5 feet 4 inches, but at this point, my mama bear attitude was every bit of 6 feet 5 inches. When the creep noticed me, he started to turn around and walk away. I wasn't going to let this slide. I yelled, "Hey, stay the fuck away from my daughter, you sick fuck. You have no business being anywhere near her, especially without me present." I think other families took notice, but I couldn't be sure, as my back was to them. I was focused on making sure the creep walked away so we could leave safely. He looked like a deer in headlights. He threw his hands up and started stammering, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." I wasn't trying to, but couldn't get a full sentence out. Bullshit. I told him to get the fuck out of there and stayed put for a couple of minutes to make sure he didn't come back. As we walked away, I watched him power walk toward the direction he first came from. After he crossed the bridge and went up the stairs, I booked it to the car with S and T. Once we were safe, I called the local non-emergency number and explained what happened, giving a description of the man to the officer. Since he didn't actually touch her, I wasn't expecting anything immediate, but I wanted them to be aware so they could increase patrols in the area. Being a victim of a predator as a child, I'm hyper-aware of these situations, both as a mother and a teacher. After I spoke with the officer, he said they would be in touch if they needed additional information. I live in the state of Washington, and in 2015, when I graduated high school, my parents decided to take a friend and me on a trip to Florida as a way of celebrating. We were gone for about a week, enjoying the beaches and restaurants. Our favorite restaurant was a small seafood place called Frankie's Roll Bar. This restaurant, located in the Port Richey area of Florida, was set on a dock right along the water, where they caught fresh seafood daily. Frankie was a pretty awesome guy. He even gave my friend and me some food on the house to try. The service was fantastic, so we took photos with Frankie and our waitress. It's no wonder my mom wanted to upload our pictures to their Facebook page to thank them for their service again. A few weeks later, I received a friend request on Snapchat from someone I didn't recognize. Thinking it might be someone from school, I accepted it. It wasn't. A grown man began messaging me and sending Snapchat photos of himself. Thankfully, nothing inappropriate. He told me his friend Frank had told him about me. At first, I didn't connect the dots and replied, sir, I don't know anyone named Frank. He clarified it was Frank from the restaurant. This freaked me out. Why would the restaurant owner tell some random grown man about an 18-year-old from out of town? I started thinking this guy might not even know Frankie and had probably found our pictures from the Facebook post. But how did he get my Snapchat? The only logical explanation was that I had once posted it publicly on Facebook. I found this situation creepy and blocked him. A year later, a girl named Blaze, who I knew from Facebook but didn't know personally, posted screenshots of strange messages she'd received on Facebook. The profile picture showed a woman in a hijab, but the messages were from a man who had sent her pictures of himself. It was the same guy who messaged me on Snapchat. He claimed he was using his sister's Facebook account and told Blaze he owned a knife store, asking if she wanted to buy some knives. Blaze screenshotted everything and posted it to warn others about this creep. I privately messaged Blaze and told her about my encounter with the same guy. I also thought it was strange that we were both from Washington, yet he had somehow found both of us after Blaze moved to Florida. I decided to search the Facebook account and found its friends list full of young girls or older women posing inappropriately. I thought this guy might be a human trafficker. I told my mom, who tried to look up the account but realized she had been blocked. It was obvious this person knew she was my mom and didn't want her seeing their profile. My mom said he was definitely a predator and told me to block him. Instead, I decided to write to the TV show Catfish. I explained everything about my experience and Blaze's, thinking this person might be trafficking young girls. I never heard back from them, but about a week later, the entire Facebook page was gone. I don't know if Catfish had anything to do with it or if someone else reported the page. Either way, Blaze and I never heard from that man again. I hope that man never hurt anyone and that he's off social media for good. Please remember to stay safe online. Never accept messages or requests from people you don't know. America Online was a huge thing when I was 13, or, for my generation, AIM, which stood for AOL Instant Messenger. It was around 2002, and I was fresh into 8th grade. Like many kids my age, I often ventured into chat rooms, sometimes alone or with friends, just goofing around. Unfortunately, unsolicited photos were a thing even back then, though you could usually avoid them by being selective about the chat rooms you entered. I didn't have any photos of myself, and back then, taking a picture meant using a digital camera and uploading it manually. Besides, I was 13 and self-conscious, something I'm sure most people can relate to. One day, a guy popped up on my screen wanting to chat. At first, everything seemed normal. I was naive, and we quickly fell into a pattern of talking regularly. His name was Dave, and he lived in California. As time went on, our conversations became more personal. He told me he loved me. The problem? He was 19. Now, I wasn't proud of this, but at the time, I didn't feel confident enough to share my real picture, so I sent him photos of a random girl and claimed it was me. He instantly fell for me, telling me that age was just a number and that I was so mature for my age. Since he lived out of state, I didn't think there was any real danger of us meeting. But then he told me he and his mom were moving to a city about an hour and a half away from me. That's when he started begging to meet in person, at a movie theater, a park, anywhere. I knew I had to come clean, so I told him the pictures I'd sent weren't actually me. He was furious. He said he'd been looking forward to meeting the girl in those pictures. A few days later, though, he forgave me. He said, "I still want to meet you because I love you." He poured on all the sweet talk, the kind of things that make a young, impressionable girl swoon. I was completely brainwashed into thinking this was normal. I told my best friend about it and shared my plan to meet Dave. I wanted her to come with me for safety, and we had everything arranged. Dave would drive to see me, and we'd meet at the movies. I didn't tell my mom, of course, she wasn't the type to notice or intervene much anyway. The day we planned to meet, my friend's mom picked us up from school. She said something that made my stomach drop into nothingness. She said, "Chrissy, you're not going to the movies. You're not going to meet that man. You're going to get seriously hurt or kidnapped, and I can't allow you to go." I cried and cried. I honestly thought I could handle the situation and that everything would be fine. But her words struck a chord. She promised not to tell my mom as long as I promised never to speak to him again and to never plan to meet a stranger online. Dave still showed up at the theater that day. When I didn't show, he went on AIM and completely lost it. He was furious, sending me messages filled with anger and threats. It was the first time I truly felt scared of him. The reality of how close I had come to meeting this man, and how much danger I was in, hit me hard. I never spoke to Dave again. Looking back, I'm certain my friend's mom saved me that day. Without her intervention, I could have been kidnapped, or worse. My mom never knew any of this, and to be honest, I doubt she would have noticed. I learned a dire lesson that day. Nobody is ever exactly who they seem online. If you're a parent, keep your kids close. Teach them about the dangers of online predators. It might just save their life. Thanks for sticking around till the end. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to give the video a like and leave a comment with your thoughts. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a terrifying tale. See you in the next one.